Thank you so much. Today we're joined by violinist extraordinaire Tessa Lark, regular festival favorite, and just thank you for taking some time to chat with our friends here in Seattle.
Thanks for inviting me. Nice to chat.
Yeah, good to have you here. First of all, we're just checking with everybody. You're doing well. You're staying safe. Everybody is as healthy as can be, I hope.
Yeah, safe and healthy so far. I am
Mhm.
in New York City. I'm just a block away, actually, from the hospital. I think that took the first New Rochelle patient.
Oh my
So
goodness.
yeah, so we were in the thick of it right away.
Yeah.
But I am in my apartment with my fiance Michael, who's a composer bassist. So we're having. I feel kind of guilty saying it, but we're having a great time, being
Well,
home together and making music together. Yeah, I mean, the reality of what's going on is terrifying, and we see it when we walk outside. But when we're staying inside, which we mostly are, it's been beautiful to just reconnect with who we are without the hustle and bustle and travel that usually comes with our lives.
well, that's great to find, some of the silver lining, I guess, I thought we would sort of jump back a little bit, before all of the craziness started. You were nominated for a Grammy this year, which is, that's a pretty big deal. How did you find out? Like, did somebody call you or, what's the process when you find out that you're nominated for a Grammy?
I've been to the Grammys now, and it's still just as much of a mystery as it was beforehand to me. But so I guess all you really know is that you're submitting your materials for consideration. I am not even a voting member of the Academy, but then you sort of hear from friends. They say, "Oh, saw your name on the ballot. Good luck." And then the morning I found out that I actually got a nomination, I was getting texts from friends. And it's funny that you're asking me this, because the first text I got was from the composer, Michael Torkey, of the piece, for which I was nominated for the performance of it. So Michael Torkey texted me in the morning. I was trying to sleep in on that particular day because my fiance had just had a successful opening of a musical that he'd been writing. So we were just kind of staying in. My phone buzzed. That was Michael Torkey. And then I got another buzz, and I was just thinking, okay, what's going on? No one ever texts me this early. And I look, and it was actually James Ennis, who was the
Excellent.
second one who texted. And he said, "Whoa, what's up, Grammy nominee?" And it's like, wait a second, what are they talking about? And so I found out by just looking online that I had gotten a nomination. But the Academy themselves, they don't notify you. They just make a general announcement right in the morning, where they announce every single category. So you just kind of have to know when that's happening and where to look. So it's a nice surprise for
Yeah,
sure.
definitely. And how was the actual awards? I mean, I saw on your Instagram you got a chance to go and attend. Was that just a
Yeah.
blast?
It was so much fun. It was really great. I think one of the cool things about being an artist and a musician is that there's a lot of vicarious living that we get to do. So I've been lucky to meet all kinds of incredible people, see incredible homes and lifestyles and everything. But it was really fun for a day to be an actual nominee and go to the Grammys. And I was battling imposter syndrome many times that day, but I had to slap myself and be like, no, I'm actually nominated for this thing. Like, I'm here because I might, so it was really fun to be for real glamorous, put on a nice dress and have a fun day. And amazing to see so many of my friends and musicians that I love get acknowledged for their work. So that was super fun to see
Nice.
colleagues there and just kind of hang out for a whole day and celebrate everyone's achievements.
Yeah, that's great. Speaking of the piece, Sky by Michael Torkey, it seems like it's such an amalgamation of styles. I mean, obviously, a lot of our audience knows your sort of Stradgrass background and your love of fiddle, as well as how it blends with classical music. And this concerto was written just for you in sort of that style. Um, I'm curious because it seems like bluegrass has so much improvisation. And so with this concerto, how much were you able to play and how much was sort of dictated with notes on the page for you?
Yeah, it's all through composed for sure. Michael Torkey was not really familiar with bluegrass when he started working on it, so I suggested some people for him to listen to, and he went from there on his own. And it's amazing what he internalized within a year. So he wrote it all out. I would say there are moments here and there when I, after consulting with Torquay and getting his stamp of approval, added some nuance and some embellishments at most that Michael would sort of like and allow me to play. But none of it is in the score as of yet, but he does want me to sort of write out these different inflections, and they're kind of like trills or grace notes or different embellishments that a fiddle player would naturally put into tunes that I was inclined to do, and Michael absolutely loved it. So that was a lot of fun to see a composer of so much renown and of such detailed work, come into the process with such an open mind and flexibility to that. But the notes are pretty much
What they are.
99% his own. I sometimes kicked and screamed when I thought something was impossible to play, but actually I talked with James Innes about this and his playing the Aaron J. Kernis concerto, for which he won a Grammy, and he said that, it's a fine line between what is impossible and what is inconvenient to play. So I found myself dealing with a lot of inconveniences in the writing, but stuck with it, and it was totally worth the technical battle. Yeah, it's a unique piece. It's actually amazing. It does sound improvisatory in nature at times, I think, because Michael Torkey's writing is often drawn to a quasi-minimalist style, but Michael really develops his motives in quite fascinating ways. And so in a way, it is what a fiddle player would do in terms of taking a motive or a theme and then embellishing it or varying it slightly as it repeats. And there are a lot of chances for that, and Michael Torkey takes great advantage. So it's amazing what he writes out that ends up sounding like improv.
Great. Yeah, no, it's on a lot of the streaming services. I know, for those that are online shoppers, you can get a copy of the disc, and definitely worth checking it out. It's really good listening, and it feels really lovely at the moment. It seems just so much fun. And I think that we could all use a little bit of that in our lives right now. So thank you for the beautiful performance on that.
Well, thanks for the plug.
Yeah, of course, anytime. What does a day for you look like then right now, kind of getting into our current situation? I mean, have you been playing new stuff? Are you trying to prepare for stuff that, you hope the gigs will come back and, be ready and fresh for that? Or are you just, playing bluegrass for fun? What's your day kind of look like, I guess?
Oh man, for the first couple of weeks, and from what I've noticed or what I've found with my friends when I speak with them, they were dealing with the same thing. There's so much uncertainty. Of course, there still is, but I was just kind of floundering and not able to find my footing for a while. But now that we're, a month into this, I realized that floundering was actually me having a break for the first time in a long time. A great moment for me to just kind of sit down and get back in touch with myself and what I am without all of these distractions that come with work, like I said earlier on, in terms of, traveling and what that does to my mental and physical health. So it was fun to just kind of sit around and observe for once in the same setting for 2 weeks in a row. I know with a lot of musicians, this is the first time they've been home for such a long stretch. But otherwise, I know tons of people have been doing a lot of home cooking. It's been fun to get back in touch with that. Michael and I have cooked every single meal since this quarantine, not one single takeout dish. So that's been fun. And practicing, yeah, it's like at first I was like, what do you practice when you don't have any gigs? And it turns out you practice everything or anything you want, So there are things, gigs that I assume will probably be canceled, but are not so far. And it's all repertoire that I love anyway. So I'm just getting into the nitty gritty of the scores and really enjoying that there's no rush to learn these things. There's certain stalwarts of the violin repertoire that I've never learned. And so I'm just taking those pieces on by myself without any deadlines or performance deadlines. So that's fun. And luckily enough, Michael and I had invested in a bunch of recording equipment for an in-home studio. So we actually were set up really well for this kind of situation. And I am in the process of finishing up, we'll see how it goes, but finishing up a commercial CD. So it's been fun to, and we're very grateful to be able to continue our professional work pretty much at full steam. It's fun to sort of have a few weeks off from the violin in terms of that pressured mindset and come back to the violin now with a renewed spirit. I feel like I'm a teenager again in terms of being excited about the instrument and playing it. And
are there things that you're binge watching, or are there books that you've started that you just can't put down, or how are you filling the rest of the day, since there's a lot of time at home now?
Yeah, the binge watching has begun. I've never been a binge watcher in my life. I'd be one of the first people to finish all of Tiger King. That's the one thing
I don't know. You and Andrew Wan, it sounds like, had a battle about maybe who finished it first. We chatted with him last week. He was embarrassed to admit it, but he loved it. So.
Oh my gosh, I felt kind of at home because I grew up in Kentucky, and that accent just really tugs at my heartstrings. And now I'm watching Ozarks in season 2. So I'm really doing the pop culture stuff. In terms of books, I have a bunch on my shelf that I've just sort of had sitting around, and podcasts and things. But again, with books, I tend to read them for research. So it's not like my thing to really go to fiction and read and sit there. But I've started pulling out a couple of books, and that's been fun. But right now it's like a book on Izai, because I'm working on the Izai sonatas and just nerding out a little bit and having fun to have the time to do that.
Like, you're pretty active on Instagram and have done quite a few, recordings, whether it's just from home or I saw one where it was with some of your friends. What's the complexities of recording and playing with people when you can't be together? It seems.
Oh my gosh, where to begin? I guess the first couple of things that came in my mind were that so far the collaborations I've done are people with whom I've already built a rapport. So in that way, I know who they are. We're pretty much really good friends and we know each other's vibe. So in that way, when we're collaborating from a distance, there's a lot of prerequisites that are coming in to help us out. For instance, one video I did with Colin and Eric Jacobson is the slow movement of a piece of Bach. But that one was easier to go about because though there were 6 different parts played by 4 different people, the first stem of that was Michael and I playing together. I was playing a violin part and he was playing bass. So in that way, already having 2 people together and then stacking parts on top of that makes it a lot easier. So some of the simple or the obvious issues are like, how do you get the thing together when you aren't in the same room? And I feel like having that musical rapport built in advance actually helps because you can sort of predict the stylizations that somebody's going to put into a piece if you have it in your earbuds and are trying to play along. So that helps out a lot. Another issue, of course, is just the gear that you're working with. Michael is really good at editing sound. And so what we've been doing so far is getting the stems or the audio from somebody, and then Michael sort of mixes it to match it as much as possible. So there's that. And then there are all the other fun things that like little bloopers that come from the process, like your dog walks by and like it hits the tripod and your phone falls and that sort of thing. So then I guess the other element of it is like, what's your video vibe you're going for? Because sometimes these bloopers happen and they're so good. And so you just got to like implement it. And so then you become a cinematographer. But I have to say the couple of projects that I've done have been surprisingly cathartic. I would think that just listening on headphones and collaborating with somebody on a screen would not be at all satisfying. And of course, it doesn't come close to being in person with them, but somehow it's kind of like an aha, but also a duh moment, more of a new technology that we can, as artists, actually participate and collaborate together and get emotional satisfaction out of that. So that's been a real nice surprise from these collaborations, that it really makes me continue to feel socially connected to my artist friends.
I want to say thank you so much for spending a few minutes here this afternoon to chat with me. We can't wait until we can all get together and have you back here in Seattle for some concerts.
It'll be sometime. Yeah. You can't keep me away from you all. It's one of my favorite places to be. So I look forward to the next time.